the first theme for our conference, Breaking the Glass Ceiling, Women in Entrepreneurship, we have Pallavi Pareek, ma'am. I would like to give a very brief introduction of all three of them, our panelists. So we have Pallavi Pareek, ma'am. She is the founder of Conduct. She is also founder and CEO of Ungender. She is co-founder of IP Leaders, founder of superlawyer.in, and she is also a managing trustee of IIS, which basically focuses on access to justice and legal literacy in India. We have Pallavi Pratap ma'am with us today. She is the managing partner of Pratap and Company. She is also advocate on record at Supreme Court of India, and recently she was in the list of 40 under 40 awards by the business world. So congratulations, ma'am, for that. Then we have Debolina Saha ma'am with us. She is the founder of Internship Bank. She has worked with various top law firms in Hong Kong, UK, and India. So I would like to start with my first question. So data has been showing and have proved yet again that female leaders all over the world are much more capable than their male counterparts, as in this pandemic of coronavirus, COVID-19 pandemic. All the countries which are led by females are like New Zealand, Germany, Taiwan, are all efficiently managed and being run and being led by females. So, as being in the front lines of your respective companies and organizations as well, what do you think? What is the main reason behind this? Why other females are they are giving the best results than their male counterparts, and what is the difference in their leadership style than men? How are female lead differently than men, and that is more successful? So whoever would like to start, the forum is open.
Pragya, do you want me to go
Yes,
for
ma'am.
it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I don't want to start a whole battle out here saying that all men are bad managers and all women are by default good managers, but I clearly understand from what you've said right now, considering that only 16 nations today are led by women, and majority of them have clearly emerged as better managers in dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I do get where you're coming from, and what I generally feel makes women good managers, not just at the national level, but even at our own organization level, are a few qualities that I think women are from very young. They inculcate these values in themselves. For example, I think we have better organization skills. We don't hesitate in inculcating a collaborative approach. So we go for a collaborative approach whenever we can. We have clear communication skills, and most importantly, I think we women, we are always taught to listen, and I think that's something that really helps, especially when you're a manager. We have good listening skills, and that's demonstrated by the fact that most of the world leaders, women world leaders, they definitely listened. They listened to the scientists, they listened to the doctors, they took action after listening. So I think that the power of listening plays a great role. We are willing to make changes. We are, I would say, have less ego, for lack of a better word. And also we have a greater amount of empathy, I would say. So our leadership skills are not the regressive or the aggressive decisive, hardcore, strong leadership that often, men demonstrate. Women come with a different type of leadership perspective, often accompanied by understanding. And we are good at multitasking also. So I think all of these factors combined have really gone on to demonstrate that when it comes to maybe managing the health of a nation, which in turn translates into the wealth of a nation, women leaders have definitely played a very pivotal and important role. And if you translate that into our smaller organizations, the way we manage it, I think the different form of leadership that we bring to the table definitely brings a higher chance of success in managing our own little organizations. Does that answer your question, Pragya?
Yes, ma'am. Would Pallavi Pareek ma'am or Pallavi Pratap ma'am, would you like to say anything?
Yes, actually, I'll take a. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. I was just referring that you. Why don't you go ahead with it?
Sure. I'll take a. Thank you so much. I'll take a cue from what the genetic built is when we talk about the two sex society so far. And I'm keeping the conversation very binary here, because if we go beyond binary, we don't even have any case studies to prove the opportunity has not been presented yet, right? So between the male and the female so far, and putting the base of the core genetic build that Debolina has just said, let's look at the experience that has further contributed towards how a woman thinks, right? There is this expectation that if a woman is given an opportunity to rise, she may not really live up to the standards. When you look at a woman leading something, it's automatically preempted that failure will happen. And this is also the reason why women are not given key roles in organization, that they will not be able to manage, they will not be able to shoulder the responsibility of these key, very important positions. And enough and more data is out there where women will be not to be the first ones to be included when a company is planning to hire their key roles or important positions that will lead to the P&L of an organization. So this expectation that they will not be able to do something is constantly there at the back of your mind, and that somehow that does not instill overconfidence in you, right? This thought process that if we are handling it, then we'll make it happen. We women do not begin with that stand. We begin with a clean slate, which means that what is it that we need to know? Going once again back to what Debolina so beautifully put it, we know how to listen. We start by understanding that being a leader does not mean that I have become a leader. Being a leader means I have to lead us, right? Now, who are those others? So the focus is completely outward. Who am I going to lead? What do I know about them? What do they need? What are the expectations from me? What are the problems that are going to happen? This whole thought process is designed around outward looking. Instead of thinking, what do I need to do? What do I need to prove? What is it that I do better? So the approach is very different, right? Then the next thing that happens is you are not taking decisions based on what you already know, but you are basing your decisions in what is good for the people that you are supposed to be leading. So your interests are put secondary. What will make you famous? What will give you more power? What will give you more control? All these things are nowhere part of the decision making, consciously or subconsciously, right? When that is not the case, you are looking at making the people who you are leading the success factor here, which once again means that you're going closer to them. The gap between a leader and the group of people that is being led, right? What is a leader without the people that they are going to be leading? I mean, you can look back and there's nobody standing behind you. It's completely useless, right? So for you, you want to, as a leader, close that gap. And when you're closing that gap, that means you're reducing the disaster factor or the miscommunication or misunderstanding factor also bit by bit. In these two approaches, the third thing that is happening very automatically and naturally is you have data. Every decision that you're making it based on a feedback mechanism, because you are concerned about what people need, not what you think. You're constantly in communication. When you're constantly in communication, you're receiving data, and then your decisions are based on that, right? So this successful decisions or impactful decisions or efficient decisions that we talk about, this is the formula for that, right? And that's where I believe women have been doing a very good job when you talk about it. And this is just in addition to what Debolina said. So I'll hand it over to now Pallavi Pratap to add her views on this.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. It's so nice to say Pallavi back and forth, but nonetheless, here. So I just have a very small experience to share. Before this avatar of being a lawyer, I used to be an MBA in finance, and I joined UNDP. There was a project that we were doing for UNDP, and we were supposed to do some capacity building for these women from the most backward districts of Uttar Pradesh. And we were supposed to do capacity building for some 1,500 odd women, and these were women who belonged from self-help groups. So it looked like a huge project to handle, and this I'm talking about is some 10-12 years back. I'm definitely old, you can make out now. So my boss comes to me, and so the team actually had me, and then there were other male members also, same age, not I don't think we were more than 1 year apart from each other. And he comes, and we were having a team meeting about who's going to handle the project, who will be the project leader for it. And he comes and he says that, Pallavi, you have to handle it. And I was like literally shocked as to, I thought maybe he wants me to, I'll be more comfortable speaking with women and all of that. So somebody, of course, not sounding very sexist, but of course, one of the male members objected and said that, no, I want to lead it. He said that you have to realize one thing, that women are always 5 years more mature than men of the same age. And I have realized that while I run my own law firm here, that, if you have a woman candidate, and I'm actually not trying to be sexist at all, but somehow women are always very mature in terms of how they are dealing. So be it, bringing that extra empathy to the client, or, being very time conscious, being punctual, being ready with your work, putting in that extra effort and going that extra mile. Fortunately, I've always seen that women bring that with them. I think that's probably part of our raising, because we are always more responsible for some reasons. In a family setup also, you see that जो लड़कियां होती हैं उनको कहा जाता है कि she is the more responsible person there. Now, coming back to the specific question that Pragya had asked, I remember when this whole thing was going on, and specifically with Jacinda and I think Angela Merkel, there was this whole entire conversation which was happening that, because they are head of state for smaller countries, and that is the reason why they've been able to manage it well. And it is, if only a woman was running a larger country, she wouldn't have managed it so well. And I think, all right, I can give maybe one point to that entire argument, but I will not let these women have that, recognition that should be given to them. For instance, I remember I follow Jacinda over Facebook, and I'm an early riser. And so you see that New Zealand happens to have about 4-5 hours of difference. And every morning at around 9 or 10 o'clock, she has this Facebook live that she does. And she does an interactive session where she will be, where there will be questions which will be coming on a live, this thing, and she'll be answering. How many head of states do we know who are willing to, hold live sessions? There are no press conferences which are happening. And this is where you have a Facebook live which is happening. I think initially we'd only seen Justin Trudeau do that in Canada, but other than that, I think as a head of state, it was only Jacinda who's doing, and she continues to do it even today. So if you follow her on a Facebook page, you'll see that there is a Facebook Live which is happening early in the morning. And I think women are more open to having a conversation. Now, at least I feel that women are very confident, specifically when you've reached at a stage as a head of state. I think they've probably overcome so much more than one can even imagine in order to be a head of state. So that confidence definitely shows. And also, like Debolina said, they come from a place of empathy. And that empathy actually sticks around. And that is what translates. Also, the fact that, she said about multitasking, Pallavi also mentioned the same thing. I think, yes, how many of us, I'm sure all of us here, including some men, I'm not taking it away from men also, but we will be, probably doing our breakfast cooking and counting the calories. I at least do the calorie counting part. And, at the same time thinking about who am I going to, what does my day look like? Okay, dun, 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 dun. You're thinking about 100 things and maybe, making a call at the same time, telling your staff to do some particular thing, and your washing machine is also running, and everything is happening during the same time, considering the work from home environment just now. So I think we can actually do so many things at the same time. And it is not that we do not do all of them well. We do everything equally well. So I think that is definitely one argument that I feel, and that was such a good question, Pragya, because, there are not many people who are asking such questions. When we run our organizations also, we see the same thing. We see that, women are very willing to take initiative now because they know that they can actually do so many things at the same time. And I think that is probably the reason that we've started to see so many women, especially as far as, litigation is concerned. I've started to see more women participation. I think I'm really happy about that, girls are sticking around and specifically into litigation, not really just into the corporate side of it, but hardcore litigation.
Yes, ma'am. So I completely agree with you when you said that they are great at multitasking, and also when you pointed out that we are conditioned to that from when we are born, that you have to like work like this, you have to. So do you think that we have to prove ourselves more? Like we overcompensate sometimes to just prove that no, I can do this. Like you don't have to assign, just because it's a tough job, you don't have to assign this to a male and not me. Pallavi Pratap ma'am, you mentioned that. So do you think that we overcompensate also? That I can do
I
much
agree.
more than that.
Pragya, I totally agree with that. Yes. Girls do overcompensate in different spheres of their life. When they are maybe daughters, when they get married, when they go to their in-laws' place, when they have kids, they are overcompensating for every little thing. What really happens is so many times we see ourselves that that there are things which are holding us back. But we just want to break those shackles and come out. I have done that. I know so many of you would have done that. Debolina, Pallavi, Pragya, both the Pragyas. So, we've all done that. And it also has to do, it's not that our families are in any manner trying to hold us back, or the society is overtly trying to hold us back. But it has got more to do with these shackles that we've actually imposed upon ourselves. These things, this is also to do a lot with the mental block that we have in ourselves. So for example, like right just now you said that congratulations on the 40 under 40, and believe me, I was not even going to enter the entire process because I was scared. I thought that I don't think I've done actually anything to deserve it, and I should not be putting in my nominations. And then I thought, okay, let me just try. I went through one step, the second step, the third step, then the jury. And the jury was really difficult to handle. And when finally the announcement happened, and the jury members, they told me that I was one amongst the first few winners who were there. And there I was, if not overcompensating, actually finding out excuses as to why I will fail, instead of having that confidence, having achieved so much in my life that, I don't think I'm going to qualify for this. So I think, yes, we are just, at least and I know a lot of people, we just keep imposing so many mental blocks on ourselves. And I think we just need to have those friends around us and family members around us to just tell us that, you're doing a great job, and you'll do better.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Pallavi, I just want to add to that. Pragya, if I may just add to
Yes,
what
ma'am.
Pallavi has touched.
ma'am.
She's touched on many points, and I just want to re-emphasize them, because I wish someone had told my younger self all of this. So overcompensation is a trait in all of us, and overcompensation, as Pallavi rightly put, it's probably not what the family is also expecting. It also perhaps sometimes stems from our underconfidence in our own ability. We think so low of ourselves, maybe because we are conditioned to believe, oh, you can only do work at home. But the same work, working in office and working in home is not very different. You are using the same skill sets when it comes to organization, multitasking, having empathy. If you can bind a family at home, if you can manage your kids, your cooking, your washing of clothes, if you can do all of that at office, you're simply balancing different types of projects. So what I'm saying, the skill set is the same. But somehow we've been told you can only use those skill sets at home. But hello, those skill sets are the very skill sets that help build a great leader, a great team person, right? But somehow we've been modeled to believe, and it's just so ingrained in us. It's ingrained in, I'm sure all the panelists would agree, no matter what we've achieved, we still are trying to grapple that, are we really good? Do we really deserve it? And this overcompensating habit, as I call it, also stems from our underconfidence. And if I could deliver one message to all the young women who are watching us today, that have confidence and have self-belief in yourself, and give yourself that pat on the back that for whatever you do and whatever you achieve, and don't put it on luck, don't put it on some good fortune that befell yourself, simply because you prayed that morning, or some good wishes someone wished you for. It is because of your own hard work, and you need to recognize that, because if you don't have that confidence in yourself, I think it's really unjust to expect someone else to have that confidence in you. So it all starts with you, and it is so important for us to, and simultaneously as women, we need to build this sisterhood. Everything that we do, we need to pull another woman up, not pull anyone down, because we need to support our own selves, and we need to support the community, and only then will the change that we so want, will come by.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
ma'am.
so apt, that both the points that you have touched upon, this feeling of we are not doing enough, right? That the world is always pulling us down. But it's a lot to do with, and that's the second side, right? Not doing something enough is also how we are expected to be the never-ending fountain of everything, right? I mean, a couple of months ago, I got a little perturbed or frustrated, or whatever is the diplomatically acceptable term here, or extremely angry, and penned this thing down that the goddesses that we are not, right? That this never-ending patience which is expected, because the minute you lose your patience, you're given a tag, right? You are irritating, you're emotional, you are extremely sensitive. The never-ending fountain of care, because one day if you don't care out of 364 days, now you're not living up to the epitome that you're supposed to be it in work or in personal life, in any area of life. One day you make a mistake, that means that you're not being as thorough and as caring and encompassing, as inclusive as a mother nature is supposed to be, that is expected out of you. these standards are set not even to a number, that if you achieve 100 out of 100 you will pass it. There is no number there, which means that you will never pass the test. You will never. You can live the rest of your life, keep proving and keep staying true to the cause, which means never getting angry, never pointing faults, never complaining, never missing a single person's need around you. And the minute one mistake is made, there is no 90% or 99%. It's either pass or fail, and you will actually never pass the test. That's the irony of it. So just wanted to add that bit, that it's not even about doing enough. It's actually about chasing something which doesn't exist.
Yes, ma'am. So, ma'am, coming back to women in entrepreneurship. So, ma'am, a lot of times when women are recruited, especially for top level job, or in every interview, I have found that women are asked the following questions: how do you manage your work? How do you manage your work life? How will you manage your work life plus your husband both at the same time? Or like, how do you manage your work life and your household so beautifully? Then there are questions like, are you married? Are you planning to planning a child? Or how many years are you going to get married? So so, ma'am, do you think that such questions are necessary in an interview for a woman, and don't they represent biasness? And like, were these questions ever asked to you, as all three of you are entrepreneurs, or do you ask these questions while recruiting women in your organization? Because these questions, I believe that these questions are very like sexist, I can say. I don't know. So
No, say it freely. They are sexist.
Adding on to what Pragya has said reminds me of an interview of Sania Mirza having some interview with Mr. Rajiv Sardesai, and on a national television he asked, because I think she had won some Wimbledon or some national championship, and then he said, "So Sania, what's your plan to settle down?" I think she had written a book, and for that there was some sort of discussion, and she said, "What do you mean to ask? Like, I have won a national championship, I'm here on a national television, and you are asking me this question." He was quick to apologize, but the damage was done. These questions are so intrinsic and so deeply imbibed in the system of men per se that they do not even feel uncomfortable. And the first question, because if you're asking somebody, when are you planning to have a child, these are very personal questions, and I think it's between two people and four walls. People should first of all not even ask these questions. They never know what's happening with the couple inside the room. Maybe they are trying, maybe there is some physical issues, anything. But people have a habit of poking, and especially no matter how much you've aced in your profession, how much grace you contain, how many championships you won, but at the end of the day, if you do not rear kids, if you are not happy in a wedding, then at the end of the day, there's a big question mark. So any such incidents that you faced per se, and how did you respond to it? I'm sure we all have faced it in some or the other way.
Yeah, and why are these questions like not asked? Like, even if you are like getting into somebody's personal life, then ask the same question to men also. Like when are you planning a child, or when are you getting married? Like, why aren't these questions asked to them and only to women?
So may I start this?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
All right. So I think this will be a little long answer. So the rest of the panels, please be a little patient. I'll start by a personal share. Okay, a few years ago, almost 5 years ago, I was actually very politely thrown out of a panel of women entrepreneurs after they called and asked me, "Can you bring your husband to the conference also? Because we are asking your husband or children as we celebrate women who have it all." And I very casually mentioned to them that I am actually separated. That time the separation period was on. Now it's legally done. And after that, they politely ended the call, and I was reclused from that. conference with a very nice excuse that we are looking at celebrating women entrepreneurs who have it all. And me, by not having a husband or child to show off, as I achieved whatever limited I have achieved, is not enough, because somewhere I let go of the personal achievements and I only focused on one side of achievements. And this happened 5 years ago. This is a reality that we have to understand, and it's not a man created reality, right? I always say that patriarchy's founding fathers may have been men, but then they hired women to do their job. They said, take it forward. Get the shit done. Okay. What we need to understand is that somewhere there's this expectation that whenever a woman decides to step out of the traditional environment, she has shifted her priorities, which are assigned by God, nature, society, men, whoever are these owners of the role assignment, that she has now shifted out of what she was actually supposed to be doing, and now is going to look at something else. Now that something else could be taking up 20% of her time, and that's why usually whenever a woman says, I want to volunteer, or I want to be a teacher in a small school, or I want to just do some consultancy job, families don't have any problem with it. Why? Because this is all part-time, this is all flexible work. They will not be competing to climb the corporate hierarchy. They will not be aiming to climb on top of the ladder and some titles and awards. Volunteers ko koi award nahi deta hai, right? So there will be no competition. Because there will be no competition, there will never be any threat that her priorities will shift. Problem starts happening when she enters the mainstream professions. She is now part of corporate world. She wants to set up her own, practice. She wants to set up her own business. Now here you're playing shoulder to shoulder. Now here you are going to be prioritizing something which is bigger than food menu for the week or for the day or the next festival which is coming about. I'm not saying my mom is a housewife, my sister is a housewife. It's fine if it is done out of a choice, right? But at the same time, there has to be an element of choice. So going back to this, having it all, right? This particular concept is so well ingrained that if you decide to step out, make sure you don't lose on your husband or the love of your family, or you're not missing out on any of the festivals. That is the mindset with which women are generally entering the workforce also. This pressure that not only I have to be available for all the meetings at work, but at the same time, I also have to ensure that if there's a festival at home, I'm there also. I'm being the perfect employee as well as I'm being the perfect partner, daughter-in-law, daughter, sister, whoever I'm supposed to be. Right? And that is something that the companies, when they're hiring, they also understand. We have these conversations with the hiring teams day in and day out, wherein we have to make them understand why you should not be asking this question anymore. And the response is always, but Pallavi, we have seen women who want to go home early because somebody is not well at home, or because there's somebody's birthday at home, or it's somebody's wedding anniversary and they have to take care of some things. That's the mindset, but it's a cyclical expectation. The day you stop asking these questions, there's a whole strategy where it can be taken care of. But if you're asking me why companies ask this question, they ask because they have seen women who are working in their homes also. They are expecting them to come home and take care of home while they are working, and they're expected to perform as well as at home, as well they are working in the offices. So somewhere the work never is expected to become a priority. Men, women, both living in the same house have 24 hours only. Where it is expected a man can work for 16 hours and then can rest for the remaining number of hours, a woman actually does not have any avenue, any space to rest, because even after going home, she will still be taking care of everything else. Once again, because it is expected that she will do it all because she wants to have it all, right? So that's where I will end my experience on this. Pallavi, Pratap, you, Debolina, I look forward to hearing what your experiences have been.
Debolina, you start. I also have a longish story to tell, so मैं एकदम आखिर में I will start.
Okay, so I mean, most part of my work, I've been working outside of India. So, I mean, hearing all the stories that all of you have been saying, I feel I'm in a better position, a slightly better position, because asking these questions are definitely illegal in any kind of interviews, at least in London and Hong Kong where I've worked. It's an absolute no, not even a hint of, questions worded differently can be asked, and it's taken very strictly. It's not just there in the law. I mean, for all the interviews that I've appeared for jobs outside of India, maybe I've gotten lucky. I have actually never been asked as to whether I'm married or what are my plans of having a kid. But having said that, all these organizations do have a written questionnaire where whether you want to give answers to these questions are optional to you. So it is optional. And I can tell you, because I've been a part of the hiring process myself in certain cases, it really doesn't impede on or give you any or put you in a disadvantageous position if you say yes to any of the questions that you're planning on having a kid or, you're married. So I think I'm in a slightly better position, but, I mean, I know it's not a choice for many people out there. Maybe I'm now speaking from a position of choice, but definitely if anyone asked me these questions today from where I stand in my career, I mean, I wouldn't want to work for that organization. The very question in itself should give you an idea about the work culture out there, because that's definitely not an organization that you would like to work for. So if anyone were to ask me that question, I think I would wrap up my interview at that very minute and maybe just politely walk out. But I know that this may not be an option for many of the people who are actually climbing up the ladder. And perhaps one thing to remember is when we get up to a position of power or where we get onto a position of responsibility, where we are hiring candidates, maybe we start with ourselves and make sure that we don't ask that question. And lastly, before I conclude, I remember Flavia mentioning as to how important it is not just to make laws more stringent. What is important is to pay equal attention to the processes and the loopholes and give women the support during the trial stage so that they continue with their litigation, right? So similarly, what is important now, I think at least the law outside of India, I'm not sure. I'm sure in India too, it's illegal. I'm not quite sure how it works there, but the law outside is very clear that you cannot ask these questions to women. But what is equally important is to support women, so that even organizations don't feel that hiring a married woman or a woman who's planning to have a child shortly would be a burden to the organization, maybe by providing flexible work hours, not attaching too much of value to FaceTime. And COVID-19 has come as a wonderful surprise to many, telling us how many things we can achieve by simply doing things online, right? So, giving women that support, I mean, not just women, every individual who may not fall within that definition of work culture that men are used to, giving every human that support that they would need to perhaps give their best to their office, to the work environment. I think that has to be simultaneously carried out. Yeah. Okay, Pallavi, over to you now.
Thank you so much, Debolina. That actually sounded so encouraging that, people don't really ask such questions. As a matter of fact, when I was in Australia, I never had any such questions being asked to me. But yeah, the moment I shifted over here and initial years were into the corporate world, this was a very usual question which was asked. So right after I came back, I got married, which was in 2008. I got divorced last year. I've been a domestic violence victim, and primarily the questions in my life started, okay, so you got married, now when are you going to have kids? My husband and I couldn't conceive. We went through a lot of hormones and IVF and I don't know, 2-3 rounds of it. Then we could finally not have kids. But the society, it is imperative for them to ask such intriguing questions to make sure that you have all the Babaji's ka number ki inke paas jao, and you might have some children and you will have some child coming out of you. What nonsense! Anyway, that really screws up your relationship with your better half. Of course, after being married for about 8 years, we separated, and then. I'm happily divorced, but I think the world still wants to know when I'm getting married again. The world wants to know, the world thinks that it is their right to tell me that since I'm just 37, I'm still of childbearing age, and that I must try and have a child. And because my life choices have to be governed by the entire world and not really by me. So this I'm talking about is in terms of uh, the litigating world that we come from. I'm not. This is not necessarily the corporate questions that you get asked, but these are questions, and a lot of times these are people who are your well-wishers. You can't really say that they're not saying it in terms of they're coming from a well-wisher space. Sometimes they're being just nasty and asking you questions to hurt you, but I think we just end up taking all of that into stride. I have stopped personally answering questions. Every time people ask me when are you getting married, I tell them आप कोई अच्छा लड़का देख तो मैं शादी कर लूँगी. So you basically that is the end to the question there itself. Asking these questions to lawyers who join me, the younger girls who join me typically, these are questions that I do ask them, and there is a reason for it, just to know if they would want to have their dates on Saturdays or not. Because I feel that if you are married, you need to have that Saturday evening date. And if you're not married, then probably you still need to have that Saturday evening date. I think either ways you need that. That is one. Secondly, also because uh, with men, I think I've never asked these questions. With women, I've never asked these questions in terms of being very formally asking them that when are you getting married. All of that doesn't really bother me. I do tell them that if tomorrow you do get married, we can make an arrangement which is work from home. If you have children, then you can we can figure out things. I always try and give them that comfort, because I personally have always felt that women who are in litigation, specifically in litigating lawyers in India, I think they have they a lot of them leave litigation at around the time when they've got married or they've had children, and this is something that I see on and off a lot. Specifically, if you're in Supreme Court corridor, every year you will see some new faces, but a lot of old faces not coming back. Maybe they've taken up a corporate job and they've started to work in a corporate environment instead of litigation. I feel that I need to bring about that. I need to give them that confidence that no, your job will always be secured, or the fact that we will make such arrangements that you can still work if you choose to get married tomorrow or have kids. The third important thing that I've always done in our organization is, if a typical law office in India would be working at least till 10 o'clock at night. In my office, I think we've hardly ever worked beyond 6:30. Even I make it a point that we leave by 6:30, at the most 7, and 7 is like really on a very bad day. And we carry our work home. If somebody has to work, they can work from home. If there is nothing really which requires to work from home, it's still okay, because a lot of women are coming from the NCR region, and I'm always worried about their safety. I think for people in India, at least women working late hours and traveling back, it has always been a safety concern for all of us. And we always have Saturday second half off, Sunday complete off, and that is primarily so that everybody can have a good work-life balance and enjoy themselves, because I think litigation can be very difficult to handle. It becomes very challenging sometimes. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. So, coming to my next question. So, according to the sixth economic census, women constitute around 14% of the total entrepreneur base in India. So that is 8.5 million out of 58.5 million. So why do you think that still in 2020 there is so much disparity in entrepreneurship, like men versus women? So is it because of the societal pressure? Is it because of lack of opportunities for the women, especially in entrepreneurship? और is it because of the gender stereotypes कि मतलब ये तो business चला लेगा, इससे नहीं हो पाएगा, so like तुम नहीं चला सकती हो, भैया business चला लेंगे, तुम मत चलाओ. So ये this thing, so is it because of this why there is still so much of gender disparity in entrepreneurship?
Pallavi Pareek, do you want to take this first?
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll take this. Okay, let's understand the whole cycle of entrepreneurship, right? How we know of it is in India. When the day you decide that you want to be an entrepreneur, okay, and you start interacting in this whole startup circle, and you want to be now part of these boot camps, incubators, accelerators, and now you have to look for seed funding and angel investors. The thing is that the minute you say, I want to be an entrepreneur, the questions that people are going to ask you: how are you planning to scale up? Have you raised fund yet? Right? What's the scaling up plan? What's the next go-to-market strategy? So many questions, right? And you have to be ready to answer these questions. Otherwise, you're not taken as a serious investor. Entrepreneur. Like scaling up plan nahi hai, funding nahi lani hai. So then you're not really an entrepreneur. Most of the women, when we talk about getting into entrepreneurship circle, do not have mentors to coach them into going through this whole step by step. If you do not have mentors, either you limit yourself to very few industries, fashion, food, anything creative, because there you will find lots of women and you will find lots of women guiding other women. But the minute your entrepreneurial venture is something which is a little off the league of what is typically expected of women, you're entering a man's world. And finding a mentor who will coach you, who will guide you, and who will answer your innocent and ignorant questions with the same guidance that would be given to the other gender is very difficult thing to find. Very, very difficult thing to find. Now, keeping that in mind, the learning curve is so steep that to actually land up with an actual investment, okay, and to be able to create a lucrative, scalable business is an extremely difficult terrain as a single woman founder or a single individual founder. Okay, I'm not talking about the marital status, I'm talking about an individual woman as a solo entrepreneur. Because there are not that many great examples in quantity to follow. You will have some 5 or 10 women leaders who would have accomplished the heights of entrepreneurial success, but the number is not that high. For every 10 men, maybe there will be one woman who is out there who has been able to do it. And this also, I'm giving you a very optimistic number, okay? A very optimistic number. But even if you look at this highly optimistic number, it's such a deterrent to think that this is the race that I'm part of. Then what is your second alternative is to actually then create a self-sustainable business, which is a very difficult task once again, because networking is a crucial element of being an entrepreneur. How many of the women have been taught this whole art of networking? Okay, most of the women are first time ones who have stepped out of the boundaries of their home and have decided that I will be an entrepreneur. When you talk about a woman being a professional, an employee in an organization, that itself is such a demanding task. To run your own show means वो even that 5% time जो आपकी family के लिए आपने रखा होता है ना, वो भी चला जाता है कहीं. I hope everyone is comfortable with Hindi, but that is also gone, right? So now you have to put your blood, sweat, sleep, everything, and even I think throw in your family's time in it and say that this has to work, because you need to make it a sustainable business, right? Then that also is not a very easy thing, because now you have to acquire very different kind of skills. You have to network, you have to make sure the market knows you have to teach yourself this social media strategy. There's so much that you have to keep learning once again, without any mentors or guardian angels in the ecosystem for you, right? It is a very difficult terrain to be in. And that, from where I have understood the startup ecosystem, um, is one of the major deterrent before women think that I want to be an entrepreneur. And most of them are not even counted as entrepreneur. People don't take women as businesswomen seriously, because the whole idea of entrepreneurship is, till the time you're playing this funding game, you are not really an entrepreneur. Oh, then you're a businesswoman. Oh, फिर ऐसा बोलिए ना आप कि ठीक है, मतलब एक लाइफस्टाइल बिजनेस आपने स्टार्ट कर रखा है कि महीने का इतना आ जाता है तो काफी है. There's a certain income you're very happy with, so this is like a lifestyle business. But please don't call yourself entrepreneur, because you've not given up everything, and no investor has shown trust in you, and you're not playing the unicorn game, and you're not the next 100 million round aspirant. So please don't call yourself an entrepreneur. So the idea of what a woman entrepreneur should be and could be is also very distorted, and the expectations are very, very, very drastically different from what it should be, right? And that's from where I have seen. I've been part of the startup ecosystem for over 12 years now, ever since I've come back to India. And this is a constant learning that even till today, someone will ask me, so are you raising a round? And I'm like, no, I'm not raising a round. It will be a self-sustainable business model. Oh, okay. It's like, okay, then she's doing some time pass lifestyle business kind of thing. And I would be very interesting to know what Pallavi Pratap's experience is, and Debolina, what's your experiences. But here's from me. Over
Yes,
to both
ma'am.
of you.
So I completely agree with the taken seriously wala point, because many a times, like, I'm like obviously not experienced as all three of you, but if we look at very small things and at home also, like if I'm saying something and if my brother is saying something, so it's like acha acha इसने बोला same चीज उसने भी बोली, but then it is full proof कि ठीक है, now it's okay, because he has confirmed the thing, the same thing which I'm saying, he has confirmed the thing, and now yeah, that can be trusted. So that taken seriously wala point is very valid, at least in India, I think. Yes,
See,
Debolina ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to add one last point. See, you have to see the reality of it, that if in a household, if both the people are working either as an employees or as entrepreneurs, right, the questions about the business growth and career progression and success at work will always be asked to the male person, because somehow what he is doing is very serious, and what a woman has decided to do is to distract herself or feel motivated, or what is now traditionally being called as, she must have converted a feminist and she need to do this,
Yeah.
so it's almost positioned like that. Over to you, Debolina and Pallavi.
Yes, Debolina ma'am.
Okay, so if I get your question, and if I'm to put it in one line, your question is, why are there so few women in entrepreneurial roles, right? Well, I think Pallavi has very nicely touched upon many of the points which I would have liked to maybe also highlight. But I think it all starts with gender stereotyping. How many of us encourage our women to go into tech savvy courses? From unconsciously, consciously, we always try and probably push our sons to go for tech savvy courses, or expect them to go for. How many of the women in the family are encouraged to take up programming, coding? And I don't know what your experience has been, yeah, but starting a startup, just simply designing a web page. I, for example, didn't have any knowledge about it, and I had to self-teach myself to kind of design my own web page. So Internship Bank's web page, I actually learned it learned myself how to design a web page. So I wish there was more push, both from schools, colleges. We were taught stitching, we were taught cookery, but how many of us, and it all starts with maybe unconscious bias. No one maybe did it on purpose, but I wish we put in more conscious thought into educating our daughters in other fields, other non-traditional fields, and perhaps that would be the sowing ground of interest for many more women to maybe come and start their own ventures. The other thing that Pallavi mentioned, starting your own venture means no holidays. It is your sweat, blood that all goes into it. And there is not unless the business becomes sustainable after a particular point of time, you are practically working round the clock. And very few women considering have that kind of support system, which allows them to go and give it their all. And that's another constraint. So unless you have that support system around you, and therefore perhaps women are many times not taken seriously because people think, oh, she's just in it for maybe a year or two, she'll realize how difficult it is. Not difficult because she doesn't have the capability, but maybe she doesn't really have that support system that she needs to maybe give it her all, which a man for various reasons has it readily given to him on a platter. I'm talking about the support system here. So maybe time commitment is another constraint. The other thing being mentorship, and Pallavi, sometimes I think we don't get mentors again for the same reason, because our mentors don't think that it is worth their time investing in us because we are just here for a couple of years. We are not giving, it's not like we lack in commitment, but for whatever reason, we have to commit to family support. We have to give our time to various other activities, which may not make us a very lucrative candidate for them to invest their time and energy into. So it's all like a vicious cycle. It starts from the time you were born to the time, unconsciously your mind is set up or built on the premise that you are supposed to do certain kind of roles, and therefore you are pushed into certain kind of courses. Even education systems, I'm sure things are improving and our younger generation has more access to tools that we perhaps didn't have growing up. So things will likely change, but I think all of these especially the issue of networking that you talked about, Pallavi. I mean, we are taught to be humble. Women are taught to be docile. Women are taught to be, and that's ingrained in us, because even today I struggle to go out there and speak of my achievements, which are clearly out there in black and white. I'm not making anything up, but there's a great hesitation because maybe of the upbringing or the society I've been brought up in, where I find it very difficult to go and talk about my achievements. Some label me as a chatterbox. Some label me as someone who doesn't know how to be humble about her achievements. But whereas for a man, it's expected that he'll go out there and brag about his achievements and sometimes maybe even exaggerate his achievements, and that's totally okay. But for a woman, it is not seen as a very good thing. And networking often requires, so you only network after your office hours, right? So going out for drinks, staying late at night, again, that's something that's traditionally not looked upon as something that good women, whatever that's supposed to mean, do. So it's a strange kind of constraints that women entrepreneurs have to, or aspiring women entrepreneurs have to work within. Constraints, it's almost like you're in a cage, you're given limited resources. So you can go out, you can try, working on this new venture idea that you have, but you have to be back home by 8 p.m. because good women don't go out and network beyond that. You can't be too loud about your achievements. And, the way the world is right now, most of the ventures are led by men. So what inevitably happens is in these networking events, you have to go out there and talk to men. And unfortunately, that too, again, sometimes is not seen through good lens, right? So it's very difficult to navigate yourself through all these constraints that are put on your way, and to top it all, we don't do the courses that might really help us. At least, like, for example, I would recommend that every university student, every college, irrespective of what course you offer, you should know how to design a web page, at least the basics of it. Even if you hire someone, graphic designing, these are courses at least every woman should be encouraged to learn and be self-reliant to the extent possible. So I think all of these, a mix bag of all of this, acts as a deterrent in us not seeing as many women entrepreneurs as we would like to see. Yeah.
That was very insightful, both Debolina and Pallavi. What I actually want to add here is one, of course, about networking. I think we've all seen a very last year itself, or actually around the Me Too time, when there was this huge seed funder. Pallavi would probably know that person as well. He who was not a very good person to know, and we've all faced that kind of harassment when we go out and try and network. It is specifically if you come with tags, like I come with a divorcee tag, so becomes all the more difficult because people think that they can go ahead and make a pass, which is not something that makes you comfortable, because there you are talking about your profession, you're talking about your work, and somebody else has something else going on in their mind. And unfortunately, we all have to try and make some parts around it to not show that. The other important thing is, I think, with respect to funding is extremely difficult. I mean, I had attended one of the summits last year, which was by TIE, Womenpreneur, that happened in Delhi itself. And unfortunately, though this should not be a platform to be saying something like this, but I've seen that, a lot of women are not really forthcoming to help another woman to achieve her desires, or, to give her mentorship. I mean, with men, we definitely have our differences, our problems that are there. But with women also, I've realized that this happens increasingly. This is probably a concern that maybe all of us can address as and when we come across a woman who requires that kind of help. The third thing is, I was an investment banker for a brief period of time while I was in my other avatar, and I'm telling you, I think as women, a lot of women used to get scared with numbers when you were asked that what do you think is going to be your projection for next 3 years. They would suddenly get really hesitant, and it was like as if you've asked a question, because they were scared of the numbers. They had a brilliant idea, they knew how to make it sustainable in 1000 days, they knew when they could break even, and then when it is that they can look at some kind of a profit starting to come in. But when you were looking at numbers, they were a little hesitant because they did not have the right schooling or right support to help them with formulating those numbers. And Pallavi would say, will actually agree with me, that this is the entire game is about numbers. I mean, how you are coming at it, what is the projection looking like, and things like that. After we've done all of those and we've reached that stage where maybe we are looking at our first round coming in, 90% of the women who are entrepreneurs, they're all bootstrapping right now. So it is basically the money that you can maybe get from your parents, and if they have a limited amount, they might just say, okay, my son wants to invest into something, and maybe even if he's failed 3 times, they would still go ahead and invest and put confidence in him, instead of putting the same amount of confidence into a woman who probably would have a more sustainable model. I completely agree with Debolina. We have absolutely no life left once you become an entrepreneur. As far as I'm concerned, I sometimes have to be the clerk of the office, also the office boy of the office, the peon, and right to the managing partner. So I basically have to do everything every single day. And these are things that come, and these are all, they bring passion. If you have that much passion to do what you really want to do, you will never feel bad about doing all of this every single day, day in and day out, every single day. I mean, look at it. We've been working from home. I've actually been inside the house for 6 months. The firm is doing fabulously well as compared to last year, and I manage everything sitting right over here from the house. But I have a brilliant support staff. I mean, by support staff, I don't mean the maids, etc., because we don't have it. My mom and I are the ones who are doing cooking, cleaning, everything, and also working at the same time. But that's because my family is that supportive to understand that if I have a virtual court hearing just now, they will ensure that there is no disturbance at that point in time, and then we figure out amongst ourselves as to how to work. This is exactly what's happening with my teammates. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, if I was married at this point in time, I'm sure it would have been very difficult for me to expect the same kind of support. That would have never come. And that is a reality, a sad reality, unfortunately, that we all face. Because as a bahu of a household, you're expected to do certain things, and your dreams somehow just take a back seat. I was very interestingly reading a quote, and actually, it was a tweet by some lady on Twitter about 50 over 50, and I was like, it actually kind of intrigued me as to what is 50 over 50. And she said that there should be an award for women who are 50 over 50, who have had settled their kids, to taken care of their family, and at the age of 50, or maybe before that or beyond that, have then establish their own companies or enterprises, maybe a small store or whatever it is that they wanted to do, and have achieved some kind of success out of it. I thought that was the most motivating thought that one could say. I mean, at 50 or whatever age it is, you can start things, and you can actually look. And now I think the startup environment is completely changing. I mean, last 10 years, it has definitely changed quite a bit. There are, like, for example, Pallavi is there, Debolina. These are all shining examples of how you can be an entrepreneur and be successful in the areas that you're looking at. When last year I was with TIE, there were ladies who were very good microbiologists, and they were working on different kind of vaccines and trying to scale that model. Even today, I think there is a list which has come out of women billionaires, and you see the lady who runs Zoho, and she's all of 48. These are things that you see that women are doing so fabulously well. Of course, it is because of the funding and everything else that has come, and tremendous amount of support from family and everywhere. That, I think, in our own household ecosystem, if we are provided that support, maybe a lot of women will come forward. But till such time that support is not there, it looks difficult. It definitely looks difficult for more women to participate.
Yes, ma'am. So I have definitely crossed the time limit which I was given, but I still have a lot of questions, but I have to stop here. Thank you so much, Pallavi Pareek ma'am, Pallavi Pratap ma'am, Debolina Saha. It was wonderful talking to all three of you. I really, really enjoyed it. And thank you so much for doing this.